Good afternoon. I hope you are having a very nice Tuesday. It is 12:30. I'm Julie Broughton. This is Take 6. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us today for your afternoon news brief. We will get a check of your full forecast for you coming up in just a few minutes. We started out the day with some clouds, a little bit of mist, all lingering around behind a cold front, but things are clearing nicely, so we're enjoying some sunshine, and we'll definitely see some cooler temperatures as a result of that front. We'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. And also, we have been staying on top of just a horrific story. Our top story has been the just a tragedy in Volusia County. An 8-year-old boy in DeLand was killed after being mauled by 2 loose dogs last night. We just heard from Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood more about this horrific situation, more about the owners of these dogs. News 6's Molly Reed is following this story. She will join us in just a few minutes with the very latest on that tragedy. But first, we are about now 5 months away from hurricane season 2025 after a very impactful season in 2024. Both Milton and Helene impacted so many of us in Central Florida. And when you are following along with us during hurricane season, you know we talk a lot about the models, looking at the different models, talking about, this model thinks this is going to happen, and just how that plays into making the bigger forecast. Joining us now to talk more about this, my weather colleague, News 6 meteorologist David Nazario. And David, the newest model from NOAA, HAPS, really did pretty well during 2024. And of course, this is just revolutionary because it all boils down to public safety as we are honing these forecasts.
It does. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Julie. I know that we're done with hurricane season. It was a rough season for all of us, meteorologists and viewers alike, especially for us Floridians, with 3 systems in 2024. But today I wrote an article based on some information that NOAA relayed down from the masses and through heavily consolidated research during the 2024 hurricane season. And it makes sense why they did it during this past season, because of how impactful and how busy it was, with not necessarily the quantity of tropical cyclones, but the quality of tropical cyclones. So really quick, we're not going to get too heavily into it. I would encourage you go over to clickorlando.com and check out our article digesting exactly how these hurricane forecast models kind of pertain to you all and the impacts they will have in positive light as we wander into another potentially busy 2025 hurricane season. We're not going to get into all that. I'm not going to unearth all that and, unsheath that chaos from behind the scenes just yet. But essentially what this article is discussing, as you can see in the highlighted portion there, kind of center screen, the Hurricane Analysis and Forecast System. So these are the HAFS models, the HAFS suite as I like to call them. We have an A and a B counterpart. They're not very different. They're essentially just used based on consistency and continuity of one another. And what makes the HAFS models so spectacular, to tell you the truth, is, and I wrote this in the clickorlando.com article, if you get that deep into the woods with that discussion, think of it for my Twister fans out there, the OG Twister, Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt back in the day, and their ragtag team of storm chasers back in the 90s when that movie first hit theaters way back in the day and what ignited my weather career, to tell you the truth. Think of the HAFS models as the Dorothy of hurricanes. Not only will they model up close and personal what's happening around the system, but they also do a fantastic job of highlighting the inner machinations of the system itself, all the different pieces and moving parts that go into the evolution of a tropical cyclone. And the reason we're talking about this is looking back, especially after reading this article that's on your screen and then writing my own to kind of communicate the message to you all and us Floridians in Central Florida. These models did a spectacular job with some of the nuances that we typically would have a hard time forecasting with hurricanes, like rapid intensification, the big one. Eye wall replacement cycles, when you see concentric eye wall rings on radar, how dry air intrusion, when dry air gets up into the core of a tropical cyclone, what it does to its structure. And again, what screams out to me front and center is Milton. And through personal experience, I can wholeheartedly testify to you all. I'm a part of multiple groups on social media whether it be chats, group pages on Facebook, on X, etc., and then just having internal conversations with Julie, Jonathan, and the rest of the Pinpoint Weather team. The HAFS models knocked Milton out of the park in terms of not only the 2 different bouts of rapid intensification that we saw with it, but also the incredible weakening that took place with the storm moments before landfall, which was pivotal in getting you all the information that you needed to make the right decisions and stay safe as we rode out that storm. It pretty much got everything to the T in terms of how it would look, the overall storm structure, the wind field, the supercellular activity that created that tornado onslaught before the system even made landfall. They did fantastic. And the reason we're talking about this today is because as we continue to revolutionize and innovate the technology we have capable of producing models like this, currently, if you look at the stats here, the upgraded model demonstrated improved forecast accuracy over a 3-year period of 8% with predictions for track, 10% better for predictions of intensity, especially at longer forecast lead times. Now, as I wrote in the article, and I'll take us full screen here to kind of get the rest of this piece off my chest because I think it's important we recognize this. 8%, 10% in a 3-year time frame doesn't sound like much, but I know a lot of you out there watching right now are very quick to jump in the comments of social media posts, of YouTube videos, even send emails during newscasts talking tropical cyclones, and especially in an era where any person with a camera and a microphone can step in and pretend to be a subject matter expert. It's very easy to get the information twisted. So not only will these tools better equip us meteorologists with the resources we need to give you that information, again, as time continues to go on and we get closer to another hurricane season, these models are only going to get better. What starts out at 8%, 10% will eventually turn into 16%, 32%, and so on and so forth, hopefully exponentially compounding on one another. And then percentages eventually turn into days, lead time, and then the lead time turns into lives saved. And it is amazing what these models have been able to do. Like I said, I think it's the Dorothy of the hurricane because you can actually 3-dimensionally see what's happening on the outside of a storm, and then we can begin to also educate ourselves on what happens inside of a tropical cyclone, just like they did in Twister with tornadoes, to better forecast how they work, how they mature, how they affect us, and better pinpoint where it is we will see the most intense impacts if and when Mother Nature decides she's going to send another hurricane our way. Julie, that's all I've got if you'd like to take it away.
I love that you went for percentages because I think it's easy sometimes when we hear percentages to kind of like the eyes glaze over and it seems so, conceptual. I like that you took the percentages and said that that will equate to lives saved. And that's what it is all about, getting that information out. That's why we do this. That is why we are on TV nonstop when something like this is coming, because people lose their lives, people lose their property. And so every percentage is going to help forecasters do a better job of getting that information out to save lives. And that is why we are all here. So I like that you boiled it down to that is what it is all about.
Big time, 110%. And who knows, that 8%, 10% may have involved some of you watching right now. That additional 10% in forecasted intensity, that 8% in just general lead time, maybe that was the difference between it going right over your house or hitting the person down the street from you or the person in the county across from you. You just never know. It's those small percentages equate to so much if you really boil it down to the grand scheme. And I think it sounds weird. It sounds detrimental. It sounds like the typical hype that you see on social media. But I'm excited to see what the hurricane season has in store for us and just how much better we not only get as forecasters, but also how much these resources better equip us to tell the weather story well ahead of time to see these things coming literally 1,000 miles away, as opposed to what some will say we're guessing until it's on our doorstep.
Right, absolutely. Now, David, I know you wrote an entire article as you were telling us. Where can we find your article? Is it up now?
It should be. Let me go ahead and take a look. If not, it should be up before the end of the day today on clickorlando.com. It is titled, no, it doesn't look like it is up just yet, but it is Predicting the Unpredictable.
Okay, so it gives us something to look forward to. All right, so that will be
Oh
on
yeah, definitely.
clickorlando.com, appearing under weather news when it is up. Meteorologist David Nazario, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right, let's get a check of your local forecast before we take a quick break. If you were out this morning, you may have run into a little bit of mist, just enough to get the roads wet in a lot of spots. Kind of an ugly morning. Things are improving for us, at least as far as our sky cover. Here's how we're doing right now. Temperature wise, it is 61 in Orlando, also 61 in Melbourne. Ocala, you were checking at 57, and it is 59 right now in Sanford. So some spots are a little cooler than we were 24 hours ago. That colder air behind that cold front still kind of settling into central Florida, riding in along that northerly flow. Winds right now are out of the north at 16 miles per hour in Daytona Beach and 19-mile-per-hour winds right now in Cocoa Beach. So there is a little bit of a bite to the air out there in some spots. Here's a wider lookout for you. You can see that front that came through overnight as well to our south. Behind that, the area of high pressure continuing to wrap around against some clouds along the coast, and high pressure will continue sliding in from our north. With high pressure, we typically see that subsiding air, so that is helping to clear our skies. Clouds and rain forecast showing those skies continue clearing throughout the day. We won't get a whole lot warmer than we are right now. We'll see highs around 63 in Orlando, 65 in Kissimmee, and you'll go to 64 if you are in Melbourne. Then overnight tonight, some of us dip into the 30s, including Ocala. You will be at 37 when you wake up tomorrow morning, 40 overnight tonight in the Villages, Leesburg 42, and you go to 45 in Daytona Beach. Here's how it will feel tomorrow morning. We're talking about wind chill readings in the mid to upper 30s in a lot of spots. It will feel like 41 in Orlando. It will feel like 36 in the Villages. Next 7 days showing our coldest morning looks to be Friday morning with 41 in Orlando. Northern interior spots will be in the mid and upper 30s. We stay generally in the low to mid 60s for our highs this week before we go into the mid 70s Saturday and Sunday, and then ahead of our next front that comes through on Sunday, bringing some showers before we clear things out by Monday. Now we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to check in with News 6's Molly Reed. She is in Volusia County, and she'll bring us the very latest on the tragic dog attack that killed an 8-year-old boy in DeLand. Stay with us. We'll be back in 2 minutes. It is 12:44. I'm Julie Broughton. Welcome back to Take 6. If you've been with us since last night or anytime during the day today, we have been following just a horrific story out of Volusia County. An 8-year-old boy died after he was mauled by 2 loose dogs in his neighborhood. News 6's Molly Reed joins us now live from Volusia County. Molly, first of all, I know you are so busy out there today following this story, so thank you for taking time to talk to us. We just heard from Sheriff Mike Chitwood shedding a little bit more life on how this tragedy happened. I mean, I keep saying it, I just cannot imagine anything much more horrible than what has happened there in Volusia County.
Yeah, Julie, it's awful. We were finally kind of got a picture of what was going on, where were the dogs, where was the child when this happened, and he said that yesterday The kid was riding his bike with some friends around their neighborhood, like they do all the time. They got to a point where they saw these dogs. The dogs were running up to the kids, looking friendly. So the kids, as a lot of kids do, stop their bike and go to pet the dogs. Well, unfortunately, the dogs turned on the child, immediately started mauling him. We were told he had a broken neck, a broken leg, and was bit over a dozen times. Unfortunately, passing away. And we keep saying the word tragedy. One of the most horrific things was, the mom heard the screams, heard what was going on of this child, and ran out and threw her body over the child to try to stop the dogs. And eventually, the dogs did run away, but unfortunately, a little too late for the child. He unfortunately did pass away. So we know a lot of people kind of want to know, where was the owner, what was going on. We're told, the sheriff said, these dogs have a reputation for running amok in the neighborhood, getting off the property, and the owner is just not cooperating with the investigation. So right now the dogs are in quarantine, but the sheriff said that their next steps is, if the dog's owner will not cooperate, they're going to take her to court, force ownership on themselves if the court obviously agrees with them, and then the plan would be to euthanize the dogs. But again, just a horrible, horrible situation there. We talked, I know, also to some neighbors this morning who again said, we've seen these dogs running all over. We've had so many issues with them. And the sheriff said, as part of their investigation, they really need those neighbors, other people who have been dealing with this, to call them and help them with this investigation, so that they can take ownership of the county can take ownership of the dogs. They just said that the owner, again, not cooperating at all. The owner does have a long legal history of issues, and they said that these dogs actually might have had another incident, not to the point of death, but in another county, attacking someone. So the investigators, they definitely have their work cut out for them to straighten this all out. But again, just horrible, horrible tragedy.
And Molly, during that update from the sheriff, we also heard from Animal Services, and she was describing the process of taking the dogs, in taking possession of the dogs. And she also mentioned that if you see stray dogs in your neighborhood or loose dogs in your neighborhood, to report it. And I think that's something that doesn't often occur to people. It certainly didn't occur to me. And they were talking about, if you see something like this, say something, because you could maybe prevent a tragedy in the future.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. I think we all see this a lot, especially if you have like the Ring doorbell, the neighborhood app. You see a lot of people going on those, posting, hey, stray dog in this neighborhood, there's a loose dog. They're posting it on social media, but they're not actually getting a hold of the person who can either fix a situation if this is an aggressive dog, or help reunite the dog at a much quicker and safer manner than someone who just sees a dog running around, picks it up in their car. So that's the number one thing that, of course, her tip too was that, please report it to us. It does not matter if the dog seems aggressive or friendly and that you think you can go take care of it. She said, give us a call and we will do everything in our power to either reunite them or, address the situation.
Yeah, well, and she even talked about when they were there trying to capture the dogs, that one of them came right to her and appeared to be friendly. So that, I think, is even more troubling, that you would see this dog and think, oh, well, the dog's friendly, it's fine. And then some horrific thing like this happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's what she said. One of the dogs ran right up to her when they were trying to capture them. The other one, it took them about an hour to chase it around the property. The owner was not home at the time when this all happened. So all the animal services people had to go and try to capture both dogs. But again, yeah, one of those dogs ran right up to her and you would not have known what had happened, just several minutes before. So again, you just never know. You got to always be playing it safe.
All right, Molly, well, I know you have a lot to do before we see you again later today on News 6. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us, and we will let you get back to the rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, Julie.
And Molly will have much more for us coming up on News 6 today, starting at 4. We'll also have much more on your full forecast. We are continuing to see that cool down right now. We have another warm up and then another cool down, so a lot to break down for you. Again, all of this on News 6 starting at 4. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today on Take 6. If you have any questions or comments for us at Take 6, head to clickorlando.com/Take6. Let us know what's on your mind. Thanks again for spending some time with us, and I will see you on TV at 4.